afternoon, Michael Shotnik with Sierra Pacific Mortgage here with Pete Ambrose of Colorado Home Realty here at an amazing setting to tell you a little about the 2019 housing market outlook. We all know you guys like the real estate piece a bit more than mortgage rates, so
not that mortgages aren't fun, but
sure, we try and make them fun.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, so a little bit of a recap. 2018 and the few years preceding has been a real whirlwind in real estate, as everybody's been following. Housing prices have been surging. Days on market. People are used to just putting a sign out in front, the house is selling overnight, and everybody's kind of wondering what's going on. There's a little bit of a change in the market. There's feeling a little bit of a pregnancy in the market among us, and everybody wants to know what's happening. Is it a bubble? Is it just a shift? And so hopefully we can get some foresight and have everybody have a little bit of a better understanding on that today. So kind of in the last 4 months, what we've really been experiencing is that there's been a lot more inventory than we're used to. Last month alone in December, compared to the December a year before in 2017, we saw a 47% increase in inventory from what we're used to. When I say inventory, we're talking about how many homes are still active on the market at the end of the month. 47% is drastic. It's not what we're used to, but we have to also keep in mind, given the population of Denver, for a perfectly balanced market, we would still need to see a growth of 300% increase in homes on the market. So we still ended the market with around 5,000 homes on the market. A healthy market, we'd like to see 24,000 homes on the market. So we are feeling that there's a shift, maybe moving in the general direction of a buyer's market, but it's still predominantly a seller's market overall. One thing that was interesting about last year is that inventory, as we're used to, historically it climbs in the beginning of the year, it kind of plateaus around June and then dips down at the end of the year and then repeats that cycle. In 2018, what we saw, which was really interesting, is that inventory continued to climb through June, July, and August, and it peaked not until later in the year there that it actually started to hit our peak of the year and then decline a little bit. Which was more just kind of interesting. Everybody was expecting when are we going to hit the peak, but it didn't necessarily mean what we're all feeling, like there's a housing bubble, inventories climbing, prices are soaring. So what we saw overall wasn't too far off from the numbers which we would expect, which was we saw only a 5% decrease in closed transactions year over year, so from 2017 to 2018. So usually it was around 55,000 closed transactions in Denver. It was a decrease last year in 5%, not drastic, but we did see an 8% increase in home appreciation still. So good appreciation. A little high historically, but given the last few years, we were still right on the mark. So kind of closing thoughts about 2018 is that we didn't really see as significant in a shift in the data as everybody was kind of expecting. What it was feeling like the buyer's market is around the corner. I do think it's coming, but maybe not this month kind of thing.
Sure.
So do you have any 2018 thoughts on the mortgage side?
I do, and pretty similar to what you're saying. What we saw in the mortgage world in 2018 was fairly dramatic, and that was a real uptick in rates from the beginning of the year until kind of towards the end of the year,
okay.
and then a real sudden dip, and that's where we are now. So being early January, we are almost identical to what rates were in January, February in 2018.
Okay.
And more of that is projected, or kind of where we're at now, kind of a level environment until mid-year is expected, with an uptick at that point and then a retraction towards the end of the year. And the big factors on the rate side are recession concerns, and inflation is kind of a big trigger phrase in our world, where once we start seeing inflation, rates are going to jump. But recession concerns and also the Fed increasing rates is keeping inflation pretty tame. So as far as kind of the the fundamentals that will impact the market. The Fed's anticipated to raise the prime interest rate twice throughout the year. That's what's expected. If they do any less or any more, the market's going to react accordingly. But with those two rate increases, it doesn't necessarily impact directly what we're talking about here. That's more of short-term rates. So if you have a home equity line of credit, credit cards, short-term debt is really what will be directly impacted. And long-term rates are expected to be about like 2018, which is good. We're hovering, just a touch under 5, give or take, depending on the day, and we're expected to see that kind of again, give or take, through the end of 2019, which is it's really pretty good. Recession concerns will continue to loom, so stock market, mortgage-backed securities, which impact long-term mortgage rates, will react accordingly, and rate hikes will potentially slow growth, and the recession concerns again will keep inflation muted and kind of be status quo about where we're at now. Rates are always dramatic, up, down, but when we look back, I think we'll be pretty similar at the end of the year to where we are now.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but historically, a 5% mortgage, it's pretty good still.
It is pretty good. You're talking multiple points better than the 30-year average. We're pretty spoiled right now in my role, kind of in the mortgage world, but also homeowners are used to hearing 3s and 4, low 4s, and it would take something substantial to get back to that point. We probably all hope we don't get back to that point, but we're still in a really good spot between those 3s and the 6-7%, which are kind of historical averages. So we're in a great spot for home buyers, and in a spot that I think will agree with what Pete said, and that is it's kind of a leveling where it's not frantic. Rates aren't to a point where it's inducing buyers to come out of the woodwork. But they're not also gonna crush the market either from the seller side. So it's kind of a happy medium, which is almost refreshing after the past few years.
Good. And I'm feeling that same personally. Just if the market does shift and we feel like it is, it's a good thing.
Right.
It's puts us at ease. A lot of us can't wait for a buyer's market, and if we continue to see appreciations in the double digits, that's going to cause a crash. To see some consistency come back and have some norms in real estate, this is a really good thing that's happening.
Exactly.
So what we've been experiencing the last few years, that's not as normal as maybe what's up to come.
Right. And I think the increase in home values has been a result of rates, partially, but probably more so is the demand for housing. There's just a shortage. In the mortgage world, we're not allowing really outside the box lending to be done these days, so that the bubbles we've seen in the past can't really happen like they had. It's really just supply and demand, and then you have rates and Fed in there also. But would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree. Yeah. And I wasn't in this when 2009 happened in that first bubble, but you were, and you could see that all the different things that mortgage lenders were able to do that maybe were not as acceptable practice, and that was driving the appreciation and the mortgages. Everything was artificially being held down and creating what happened. Right. And now there's a lot of regulations in place that for sure helps that not to happen.
Definitely, and along with that, just the way transactions were completed, there were a lot of unethical things happening that was almost common practice at that time. There were straw buyers in the market, and that wasn't uncommon, and a lot of things that artificially inflated value. So a lot of checks and balances have been put in place to I think, restrict unethical lending, illegal lending, and home buying. But in addition to that, I think that the passive benefit is a bit more controlled growth.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to talk about, kind of get an idea of cyclically what happens in economics and in real estate specifically, and where does that put us now, and kind of what should we start to expect in the years to come. we all say history has a way of repeating itself, unfortunately, but it kind of gives us an idea of what we can expect. Every 100 years or so, at the beginning of every century, we usually have some sort of big geopolitical event. Don't know what that could be still, but that's cyclical. Real estate, every 7 to 10 years, we see a market swing. Doesn't mean a crash, like everybody's kind of talking about, like, oh, the crash is coming. It's been 10 years since the last one. No, the pendulum's gonna swing one way. We can expect that. So where can we apply today's data in the past? And it's actually not too long ago, late 90s to early 2000. If we look at our data from the last 5 years and we apply it to that data, it's almost a mirror image. What we were experiencing then, appreciation in those 5 years, the later half of the 90s, was at 10.1%. Last 5 years, our appreciation in Denver has been 10.1%, identical. Affordability in the late 90s. So affordability, what I'm talking about there is your PMI. So you've got your principal and your interest on your mortgage. With the interest rates back then, yeah, housing prices were lower, but people were paying about $1,700 a month for their mortgage on average. At the end, so near 2000, that upticked to a little bit above 2,000. So that affordability got pushed, that envelope got pushed there. The last 5 years, our mortgage rates, which you hopefully can confirm, they've been around $1,800 a month for a mortgage on average. And then in the last year, 18 months, as we've kind of pushed that envelope on affordability, we've seen our average mortgage go up above $2,000 a month. So we're pushing that envelope, especially here in Denver. What are buyers willing to spend for a home? For so long, we're used to the prices, the bids get bid. We hear the bidding war so common in real estate. I'm afraid of a bidding war. I don't want to get into that. But we've hit that point. We pushed the envelope where buyers are saying, I'm not going to spend that kind of money, and the sellers are having to pull back. The buyers are getting a little bit of an upper hand there. So then after 2001, if we look at that data, and we see, well, this was pretty identical. What happened after 2001? Well, the market didn't crash. We know that. It crashed later, a decade later. But early in 2001, interest rates did rise, as we're kind of feeling right now. But prices didn't crash either. Prices, they didn't continue to appreciate at 10.1%. They kind of leveled off. And they appreciated a little bit of a healthier rate, 4 to 5% a year. That's a healthy number for real estate. Different markets, different appreciation. 10% hasn't really been healthy. It's been great for homeowners, but it hasn't been, if that's long-term, that's not healthy. So yeah, in 2019, we need to keep an eye on affordability. That's going to be the big thing, especially here in Denver with such a tight market. And different levels of the market are going to be hit different. I think the luxury market, so that's like $750 and up, they're going to be hit the hardest. Their prices are probably going to come down. Their days on market are going to be really drawn out, maybe 45, 50 days is what we might start seeing there. The middle class market, so homes under 750, over 300, it's still going to remain fairly competitive, but we're going to have to figure out how do you move in a market like this. For most people, I think this is a good thing because there's such an increase in inventory on market. You can confidently list your home and know that there's going to be something else to move into. So at that, it's still going to be competitive, but we might see longer days on market, but I think prices are still going to continue to go up. And then the lower end market, so under 300,000, they're going to be hit probably the least, but it's going to remain to be the most competitive. So their days on market will remain pretty short. They're still going to appreciate better than especially the lower. Thanks for watching. That was a lot, so hopefully you soaked in as much as you could. This beautiful January day in Colorado, in the mountains. Is this a green screen? I don't know if we should tell them. But beautiful day, and hopefully that gave you an idea of some of the market, high-level overview, what we've been experiencing and what to expect in 2019. Give us a shout, give Michael a shout if you got questions on your mortgage, and I'm always happy to work with you on the real estate end. Take care.
Thank you.